Guys, welcome to the channel The Elite Education. This is Garima, and today I have come up with a new video on the topic gene transfer. This topic is included BSc third year Zoological Sciences in fifth semester in this paper called Animal Biotechnology. So in this video, I'm going to discuss about gene transfer. Actually, what is gene transfer? And the three most commonly used techniques of gene transfer: microinjection, electrophoresis, and biolistic gun method. Biolistic method or simply gene gun. So, gene delivery is a process of transferring a foreign DNA into our host cells by using a vector. Okay, so you have a gene of interest in one particular organism and you want to see this character in another different kind of host cell, host organism. So what you would do is you'll collect this piece of gene, this gene which is responsible for your favorite morphological character, and you will insert into a vector. This vector, you will be transferring it into your host cell so that it will travel into the host, it will travel inside your host cell and release this genes. This genes, the gene of interest that we have introduced into the host cells, will get incorporated and the host cell will itself start producing the morphological characters. Okay, so this gene transfer usually occurs naturally and also it can be manipulated. Naturally, our genes get transferred from parents to offsprings and all other different methods. But when we manipulate, we actually take the control of the cell and we do it manually by using various scientific equipment. This technique is used in gene therapy and in plant hybridization. So, gene delivery or gene transfer is used in gene therapy. So, gene therapy is nothing but there are some immune deficiency disorders that are caused due to errors in the genes of some patients. So, these people can survive if they get the products of those genes that are not present or not properly functioning in their body. So, in this gene therapy, what they do is they collect the DNA sequences from the healthy patient, they transfer it into the patient, okay, so that this transferred genes start producing essential proteins that are not present in the patient's body. So, once these genes have started their production, the proteins that are required in the patient's body get fulfilled and the patient can live healthily. And in plant hybridization, so so we use this various characters like the short bark varieties and the thicker gift of sugarcane and all these. So various strains of crop plants are produced by using gene transfer in this technique of plant hybridization. For a gene delivery to be successful, the foreign gene must survive long enough to integrate into the host genome and express it. So, even if you just transfer the gene and if you let it be neglected, or if you neglect it, if there is any disturbances caused in the cell, the DNA that you have introduced or the genetic material that you have introduced might not get properly incorporated. And that is the reason why a gene transfer is only said to be successful when the host cell incorporates it into its own genome and starts producing. So, for this to occur, the foreign DNA must be able to survive for a short period of time until it gets incorporated into the host DNA. Okay, the first approved gene therapy clinical research was done in clinical research in US on 14th September 1990 in NIH. As we have discovered, gene therapy itself uses the gene delivery. So you can name it as, for the first time, it was, gene delivery or gene transfer has occurred in the form of gene therapy in US in 14th September 1990 at the National Institute of Health under the direction of William French Anderson. Okay, so that is all about the introduction of gene transfer or gene delivery. Okay, so methods of gene transfer. Usually, there are various methods to transfer a gene into a cell. The first, usually the physical methods are used, out of which I have discussed three most important ones. And there are some chemical methods also, and liposome mediated deliveries and all such. But I have discussed here the three major and the important ones. The first one is microinjection. It it is a method which involves the transfer of gene using a fine glass micropipette. This method involves the skills of a worker to insert a needle into the nucleus. So, to make you understand it in a better, I would like to give you an example. So, when you go to a doctor, some of the doctors would prescribe you injections. So, what is the function of an injection is? It basically you will basically the nurse or somebody the practitioner usually injects the medicine directly into your cells or somewhere in the muscles, right? Imagine if this occurs at a cellular level or under the microscope. The same principle is applied under the microscope for microinjection. So the principle is same. Okay, so in this method, the genes are used simply. Okay, so instead of the medicine, imagine that you are transferring your gene of interest. So your gene of interest is used and using a fine micropipette and which consists of a needle. So you will take that material into the needle and you will hold your cell, which is a single cell usually, under the microscope. So you will hold the cell and you will directly transfer the gene of interest inside the cell. DNA microinjection was first proposed by Dr. Marshall A. Barber in the early 19th century. So this Dr. Marshall A. Barber is the first person who have proposed this concept. It is used to identify the characteristic function of dominant genes. To perform this technique in plants, the cells are immobilized first. So usually the study of genetics is wide and unending subject. So there is no certain limited boundaries for it. You take any piece of gene, you get to study anything. You take any, for all these studies, there are some techniques that are widely used. So one such is gene transfer. So for the study of dominant genes, you will probably need this gene transfer. And how do they study the dominant genes? Simply, they collect this gene of interest. So they think that that gene is responsible for those morphological characters. They take it, they micro-inject it, and they use this micro-injection process and they inject it with a glass micropipette with a needle into the cytoplasm and then into the nucleus of the cell, and then when it starts expressing, they study the characters of that gene. And if you want to perform the same technique, that is a technique of microinjection, the plant cells, not just the plant cells, even if the cells of humans, the somatic cells or any cells, they should be stable to the point. They should be fixed, because under a moving cell, you cannot directly inject that material, right? So whatever be the cell, you should immobilize it first. So the procedure of microinjection. The delivery of a foreign DNA is done under a powerful microscope using a glass micropipette of 0.5 mm diameter. Cells to be microinjected are placed in a container. A holding pipette is placed in a view in the field of the microscope that sucks and holds the target cell at its tip. The tip of the micropipette is injected through the membrane of the cell and to deliver its contents of the needle into the cytoplasm and then into the nucleus. So this is the structure. So for better understanding and for simply, you can find these in various research institutes, but a commonly used place of this technique is IVF centers, that is in vitro fertilization centers. In these centers, they just hire a surgeon or a person who is medically qualified. He just collects the ova of the females and he collects the sperm of the partner, and he just starts working with under the microscope. First of all, he uses a pipette to hold this ova, and then he collects the sperms with a needle and he injects that into the ova. First through the outer membranes and then through the through the cytoplasm, and then finally he reaches the nucleus. So the next steps, fertilization occurs and the zygotes, and not every cell survives. So they usually collect around 16 to, 6 to 7, 6 to 7, 8 eggs, and they fertilize all of them, out of which one or two would be able to survive, and that one gets introduced. Okay, so what it requires is the cells that are first of all you will place your cells in a container, and then a holding pipette is which is very essential. So what happens is this holding pipette sucks a portion a little bit at the tip of that particular cell, and it holds it a place so that the cell doesn't move inside that solution. So when this cell is being holded, the on the other side the needle which contains this genetic material is used, and slowly with a great precautious nature, we just introduce that genetic material inside the cell. Okay, so after it is inserted, we just remove that needle and the cells are left for culturing. Advantages and disadvantages. So the first advantage is a marker gene is not required and the target gene is introduced into the cells directly. And so you will not require any kind of marker genes and the target gene to identify whether you have correctly transferred your gene or it has been incorporated or not. So directly that everything is under your control. Your gene of interest is in your needle and the conditions are also under your control. So you'll directly insert that target gene into the host cell. And selection of resultant cells is not required by using antibiotic resistance genes. Okay, so how would you know if you'll not select in all such? So once after you have inserted your target gene, if it gets integrated, it will automatically start expressing its character. So even just by your observation, if you get your morphological characters well and good, so your experiment is successful. And if you have not done, or if you have not seen any of those characters that you wanted to see, you should do it all over again. So these are the two advantages of this micro injection, and the disadvantages are only one cell can receive DNA for one injection, and there is a requirement of regeneration process from the microinjected cells. So usually you can inject it only for one cell at a time. Okay, so and even after the injection and even after the introduction of genes into the target cell, the regeneration should be occurring in those cells, microinjected cells, for us to know whether we have transported correctly or whether the gene has incorporated or was it is digested in its midway, such things. It requires skills and it is a laborious process that requires highly sophisticated equipments. This point is very true because whatever be the procedure, when it is being dealt with molecular level or at a molecular level, it is indeed very difficult because first of all we are using an aid, and it is very hard for us to stabilize those cells, and not every experiment will never be a successful. It requires for a scientist to do some minimum of 10 to 100 experiments, and out of these all experiments one might be successful. So, and it is a very laborious process and it must be highly skilled, because one of the major disadvantages in the laboratory is that you will have limited amount of resources. You cannot waste your resources. Your resources are the most precious things for you. So in order to be accurate at one go, you should have a high amount of skills, right? The next technique is electroporation. The process of introducing a foreign gene into the cell, host cell especially, by using a pulse of electricity to open the pores of the cell membrane of the host cell for a brief period of time. The open pores allow the genes to travel inside the cell and thereby to the nucleus. And if it is a prokaryotic cell, then it is termed as nucleoid. Okay, so in this electroporation, you will have a machine and your cells and DNA would be suspended in a solution. So to this solution, you will just apply the electric field, and when you switch on the machine, a high amount of current is discharged. And when these cells that are present in the solution get this electric shock at once, they open their pores for a certain amount of time, which is very short, like less than a second, like a millisecond to a microsecond. So when these pores are opened, directly what happens is the gene that is present in the solution enters inside the cell, and just it all occurs in a fraction of a second. It doesn't take a lot of time as we are discussing here. So immediately after this, the cell gets, after the cell gets rehabilitated, it quickly closes its pores, and the normal structure of the cell is obtained. So that is all about the electroporation. And the open pores allow the genes to travel inside the cell and thereby into the nucleus. Okay, and as I have said before, if it is a nucleoid, that is, if it is in a prokaryotic cell, it directly transfers into the cytoplasm and then into the nucleoid. This technique was first discovered by Newman et al. So this is a fellow, along with his group, he has discovered the technique called as electroporation. Procedure. The host cells and the DNA molecules that are required to be transferred in the cells are suspended in a solution. In the instrument, when the first switch is closed, a capacitor charges up and stores high voltage, which get discharged on closing the second switch. So the instrument, when you observe the circuit diagrams of these instruments, you will find two switches. So when you know that if you have studied in the physics, usually the switch, when it is switched off, it is in an open state, which is represented in the circuit diagrams. So when the first switch is closed, a high amount of the electricity is generated, and after this generation, the capacitor stores this one, and after production of electricity and charging up occurs, automatically the second switch gets switched on. Closing of the second switch occurs, and when the second switch gets closed up, the electricity travels into the solution, and at that point of time, 10,000 to 1 lakh volt per centimeter is generated, and for a few milli to microseconds. So even the duration of this discharging of the cell is very short. It gets generated in the solution, and the cell at 0.5 to 1 volt, what happens is the pores automatically start getting opened up due to the high amount of electricity that is present in its environment. So at that point of time, the pores get opened up and the DNA gets entered inside the cell. The cell membrane opens up for a moment of time, and then the membranes of the pores of the membrane quickly close, assembling the phospholipid barrier. As I have said, just in a milli to microsecond, you will definitely see that well-formed phospholipid barrier. It is just like, did anything happen here into this cell? You will automatically start thinking, was this the same cell that was undergoing shock just a moment before? Okay, so this is the electron microscope slide. So this is a normal. The first towards the left one shows the normal one, and the right slide shows you the pore that was generated after the electroporation. This is all about electroporation and the advantages and disadvantages. It is a highly effective and applicable for a wide range of cells. It requires a smaller amount of DNA as when compared to that of various other techniques. Cell damage, so these two are the advantages of those electroporation techniques. So, next coming to the disadvantages, cell damage can occur by irregular intensities of electric current, which may result in the permanent open pores or pores with larger sizes. So, not everything is too much advantages. There are even a few disadvantages. If uh, if the lab technician or if the person working with this machine is a bit, junior, or like he is just a bit unexperienced, and he has generated a little bit of too much amount of current at irregular intensities. So what happens, or if the machine itself is having some faulty things, what happens is the spores might not get closed, or larger pores are usually formed than required. So these two are even disadvantages, because if the pores remain, opened, what happens is ultimately the cell loses its contents, like those ions and all such. And if larger pores are essential, they take a little bit much more time to get closed, or might not get closed at all. Non-specific transport of ions with different, along with DNA, might cause ion imbalance and cause improper cell function and cell death. So what happens is, not as I have told, not every procedure is having fully advantageous situations. So when you are actually transporting this DNA, some other additional ions might get transferred into or out of the cell that can cause, imbalances in the cytoplasm and inside the cellular environment, and it can lead to improper functioning or even cell death. So this is all about the advantages and disadvantages of electroporation. And the biolistic method, the last common method that is used. Biolistics is a method for the delivery of nucleic acids to the cells by high-speed particle bombardment. So this is also called as a gene gun method. In this, what happens is, so the particles, there are some particles to which the gene of interest, on which the gene of interest is present. Okay, so this what happens in this method is, the delivery of nucleic acid occurs by high speed particle bombardment. Means these particles just act as those bullets. So when you shoot up the gun, what happens, the bullet just get released and it pierces into its target, right? Whether it is a wooden or flesh or whatever. The same thing happens when you shoot this, when you use this gene gun, the particles get discharged and immediately they enter inside the cell of the host. Okay, this technique uses nucleic acid coated particles propelled by pressurized gun, which is called as gene gun, to transfect cells or organelles. It was originally designed for plant transformation, but it can also be used for vaccine delivery. So, only plants, why everything here is mostly, if you're observing all these three techniques, even at the beginning, we have mentioned that these were usually used for plants at the beginning. Why is happening? Because plants have an extra capacity, an additional capacity to, accept those shocks and all such. And even if a tissue damage occurs, plant cells can survive much better when compared to that of animal cells. For minute, okay, even if severe tissue damage occurs, both the cells would die. But a little bit of changes or a little bit of things, because due to the presence of cell wall, plants can survive better in the laboratory conditions. And even a bit of harsh conditions, the plant cell might thrive and survive. This device is able to transfer almost any type of cell, including plants, and it is not confined to transformation of nucleus. So this is also a wide range, having a wide range of applications, not just into the nucleus, but you can also transfer it into any parts. The biolistic method was introduced for the first time by Sanford. Okay, so this slide is full of pictures of gene gun. If you can see, this is a gene gun, and the next is the gene gun barrel. So what you are observing, the second picture, is actually the tip of the gene gun. So you can see that this, the when the gun was used and the trigger was released. So different DNA coated particles are entering into the target plant cells with a high velocity. And this is the final slide. As you can see, how it is being used by the scientists for injecting those, sorry, for transferring those DNA particles into the cell. Okay, that's all about. So, advantages. It has been proven as a versatile method of genetic modification, and it is generally preferred for genetic engineering of crop plants. So, because this involves high velocity, animal cells might not thrive as better as plant cells. But yes, they are also used in animal cells. Okay, it doesn't mean that these are confined to crop plants only. It was helpful in the experiments of plastic transformation. Okay, so these were the two advantages of biolistic method or gene gun method. And the disadvantages include messy integration patterns, low, relatively low throughput, and high input cost. And the cellular target cannot be controlled, that is cytoplasm, mitochondria, nucleus, or plastid. So, as I have said, every technique is not completely advantageous. It can have some disadvantages. So, these are the advantages and disadvantages of the biolistic gun method. So, this was all about the most three common techniques that are used in the physical transfer, gene transfer. And for instance, just to summarize up what we have learned again, that is, first you have learned what is gene transfer, and then all the three techniques. So if you have, I mean, find this, if you find this video as being useful, just click that like button, share it, and also hit that subscribe button so that you will get notified for the next video updates. Thank you for watching.